All right, so we'll officially open the FinCom at 7:03 p.m. April 26th. We are going to go a little bit out of order on the agenda, just to give folks on the FinCom a few more minutes to show up. So we'll start with the budget hearing. What I will do is, do I need to do revenues?
My suggestion would, Mr. Chairman, would be to start on the page with revenues and give your highlighted one, start with total raised by property taxes and then move down to local receipts, just so you have that total number at the bottom. And then when we get to the budget, the end, they're both the same, which is what we need. So,
I just want to jump in here for a minute because the format is different, right, than previous years in the budget book. So I spoke with the town accountant this week, right, as we were preparing these other documents. The only required vote at all is the bottom line total of the budget. So there is any format that you read it in, any votes that you take in any of it, you can do it in any way as long as you vote on the bottom line, right? That's so even at town meeting, you don't have to read line by line if you don't want to. You just have to vote on the 23 million. So don't worry about format so much since the lines aren't identified by the same codes. Don't worry about any of that, right? Just worry about the big numbers and then questions, if people have them, we can answer, right?
Okay. All right, perfect. So I will continue reading through the revenues. Now, do we technically need to vote because there was a slight change from when we voted at the joint FinCom select board meeting last time, right? We got the new numbers for.
Just so we're clear.
Or
Kim,
Norfolk
correct?
Aggie.
The budget didn't, the bottom line number didn't change, which you voted on already.
Yeah.
So this is only a hearing right now, so.
Yeah, I know. I guess my question is if any of the line items in between changed, even though the bottom line didn't.
Yes, so
Let's face it.
let's just recap it. So what he's referring to is since their last vote, and I think everyone on the committees was involved in the email, we got the actual enrollment data about Norfolk Aggie, and it was slightly higher than, it was one student higher than we had anticipated. And so because we were still right before printing of the budget, I was able to put the actual Aggie estimate number in, and I just reduced FinCom reserve by that amount because that's our balancing number anyway, especially because it's still an estimate for Aggie anyway, right? So they could end up having 8 instead of 11. And so it's still an estimate. So it didn't necessarily even have to be corrected. I just figured it'd be better to err on the side of allocation than not allocation if we had a number at that point. But the bottom line, Mike is correct, didn't change. And so that's the budget that you voted on. So, but if anyone wanted to talk specifically about that change, you certainly could.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know procedurally if one of the line items changed in the middle, if technically that's a new budget and there need to re-vote on that again. It sounds like we don't.
No, only if the total change.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so I will read through fiscal year 24 revenues. Please gain my attention by either raising your hand online. I could use help folks watching that or speak up in the room if there's something like to hold, we can come back and address.
Mike, are you sharing a file or?
I was not sharing.
What are we looking at? I just want to know what file.
Yeah.
I can do it if you want. I have them open on my desktop.
Yeah, if you could share and just follow
Sure.
along, that would be helpful.
Yeah. Sure.
And
If I wander off, somebody remind me. I have a tendency to wander. Hold on. Can you see it?
Yep.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we'll start at the top. Total raised by property taxes, 20,079,061. Total local receipts, 2,635,505. Total local aid, 565,983. Total transfers from other funds, 90,351. For a total revenue estimate of 23,370,900. Okay. So now we'll travel down to expenditures. Start with general government. We'll do town moderator department total, 100. Select board department total, 301,400. FinCom total, 1,000. FinCom reserve, 21,330. Accountant auditor department, 79,000. Assessors department, 97,650. Finance department, 180,600. Legal department, 80,000. Human resources department, 42,250. Technology department, 186,750. Town clerk department, 89,090. Elections department, 20,450. Conservation department, 35,250. Planning department, 89,650. Zoning department, 27,850. Land use department, 2,550. Maintenance department, 152,950, for a total general government of 1,407,807. For public safety, on the police department, we have 1,897,300. The fire department, 1,308,350. Inspectional services, 128,000. Emergency management department, 7,750. Animal control department, 29,750. Tree department, 49,100. Dispatch, 40,000. For a total public safety of 3,460,250. Education for Medinupton Regional School District, 10,915,560. Blackstone Valley Tech, 1,503,450. In Norfolk Aggie, 296,750, for a total education of 12,715,760. Public Works and Facilities. Public Works and Facilities Department, 744,600. Snow and Ice, 194,000. Street lighting, 43,000. Waste Department, 654,500. Water Department, 30,650. Cemetery Department, 100. Total Public Works and Facilities budget of 1,666,850. Human Services, Board of Health, 108,400. Council on Aging, 154,750. Veterans Department, 39,150. Library, 328,370. Recreation Department, 21,500. Parks Department, 93,450. Historical Department, 4,000, for a total human services budget of 749,620. For debt services, retirement of debt principal, department total 763,300. Interest and long-term debt, 109,500. State assessments and charges, 3,500, for a total debt service of 876,300. For benefits and insurance, Worcester County Retirement, 1,052,500. Workman's comp, 24,500. Unemployment insurance, 30,000. Employee insurance, 1,196,500. Medicare, 57,000. Liability insurance, 133,750. For total benefits and insurance of 2,494,250, which brings us to a total operating budget of 23,370,900, which is exactly what the revenue for the town is. I believe that is everything that I need to read off for the budget hearing. Are there any questions, concerns? Chris?
The only thing I would comment, just for everybody to understand, both the budget side and the revenue side is, it's an estimate, right? This is all projected for next year. So
Correct.
In a perfect world, this is how it's going to work, but this is our best educated guess.
Yep.
I would like to also add, because if anyone watches this later or potentially before the town meeting and they're looking at this document, There's some explanatory language in there. There's some letters that explain, but also you'll see, because this format is very different than the past, we switched to a new system this year, including a new chart of accounts. So this is a very simplistic, basically shell of a budget that's in front of you, but also in the printout in the book is the detail of the previous year. So you can see, year over year where the increases are in case anyone wants additional detail about growth. And then we basically took those requested increases and then input them into the new lines for our new system. So that is what the new budget looks like in its format. But the detail that people are used to seeing are included in the FinCom book if they want to see more of that.
Great. Thank you, Kim.
Welcome.
All right, I'm going to move on. Just real quick, I want to touch upon the meeting minutes. We need to approve all of the CY24 minutes. So we have 4 of us to vote. Adam is a non-voting member. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 17th?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Gotta ask for a second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Drawing blank. Oh yeah. Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nick?
Aye.
Nick, we need you to vote.
I'm sorry, I'm just pulling up the minutes so I can review it. There was one that I had a question on. I just want to make sure it's not that one.
Okay.
No, that one's good. Aye.
Okay. All right, unanimously approved. Get a motion to approve the minutes of January 18th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
That's the one I had.
Discussion?
That's the one I had a question.
118, correct?
Yep.
No, I'm good with that. I wasn't there. Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
I would abstain from that.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Get a motion to approve the minutes of February 1st.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Get a motion to approve the minutes of February 15th.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Get a motion to approve the minutes of March 1st.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
I think there was one correction. I think I mentioned, I was not at that one.
Yeah, it's on the revised one, I sent out.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's reflected.
Set.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Get a motion to approve the meetings of March 15th.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
I abstain. I wasn't there.
Get a motion to approve the minutes of March 22nd.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
I abstain on that as well.
Motion to approve the minutes of April 5th.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That covers all of the meeting minutes.
Thank you again, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
No problem.
Appreciate working through that. All right, so let us go through the town warrant articles. So I believe, Kim, you're going to bring those up, or did you want to bring those up, Mike?
I'll do it. I already have it open.
I've got it on my screen, but I'm going to be.
Yeah, edit.
Right.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, everyone's quiet.
It's an eye test, but it's up there.
So I can, oh, stop. There. How's that?
That's better. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank
There
you.
go.
All right, so do I go through these or do you? I mean, technically, these are mostly
Yeah,
also.
so I'll go through them and then we can just ask questions about what they are. I mean, Article 1, there's nothing for you to do there. That's, if you don't have someone tries to make a change to the budget and they don't have a funding source, then it's out of order, right? Article 2 is the salary amounts for elected officials, which is this right here. But it's voted as part of the budget. So it's not a separate vote. It's not a separate vote for you as an expenditure. It just is a separate vote at town meeting. Article 3 is bills of a prior year. We have one bill. It's from the town's website. It just missed the correct dates for funding. So it's 24,000. I'm recommending, I probably should start here. We had some free cash left
2400.
over. Can you see this? Hold on, let me zoom in.
Kim, you meant to say 2,400, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So here's the funding sources for these articles, right? So the FinCom is tasked with recommending funding sources, right, for articles. These are the funding sources that are available, right, or any combination of. And so this is what's available in each of these accounts. These CPC account balances do include the new bucketed amounts that will be allocated at town meeting in Article 24, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So these, they're already in here. And then these right now, based on the articles that we have, these are the proposed locations of where the funding would come from. So 175,000 from stabilization, 7,000 from historic, 8,360 from housing, 329 from budgeted reserve, 990,000 from fund balance, CPC fund balance, 26,000 raise and appropriate. Those are special articles. We'll talk about that separately. And then free cash, we had $66,000 unallocated still for this year. So there's articles on here. I'm recommending the source free cash of 56, which leaves about 10 grand. And then these others down here, these are actually going to be transfers back into accounts. So they're not really expenditures. So we'll talk about those. But so that is the second tab. I sent you all the link to this spreadsheet if you want to look at it specifically to see. So back to this. So here's bills of a prior. Typically we pay that from free cash because it's a one-time expense, right? With one-time money. Article 4 is the budget itself, the one we just talked about, 23,700,090, I don't know, something like that. Chapter 90 is just, it's the authorization for the town to be able to spend Chapter 90. It's not an actual dollar amount, though we do talk about the dollar amount in the actual discussion, just so everyone is aware of how much. So it's not, you're not approving an amount here. So there's none here, right? This is the whole budget.
Do you have the amount there though, just for my notes here?
I don't have it.
Oh,
I didn't look
later.
it up today.
All right, we'll get it later. We know what it is. It's in there, just.
Yeah, it's probably $287,000, something like that.
Yeah.
Then Article 6, Article 7, and Article 8 are what we typically refer to as consent agenda special articles, meaning they're things that we vote on every year because they're regular spend. So the way these work is there's actually like lines for these in the budget without getting too complicated. So, but they have to be voted on separately because they are not specific departments. So you'll see, which not to get too confusing, but on the revenue side of the budget, since I have all of this open, I can torture you all with facts that you can see right here, reserved for articles. We account for the spending of these articles on the revenue side. That's where those show up, just so people want to know how that works. When you have a special article and it's raise and appropriate, that's where it comes from. So one is for assessor's annual inspection cycle. You know this, everyone is growling about it, right? Valuations and all of that. That's what these are. This police matching grant is a DARE grant that we have every year. It's annual, it's a match. This opioid settlement program, I put down other here because I actually think this is just a transfer from the money we received in order to go into the police department's budget to be able to spend it. Okay, so it's not an expenditure, it should be a transfer. This one, Article 10, is the CPC's portion of the police station debt payment, right? As you recall, a third of the project was paid for with CPC funds because it was built on a historic campus. You're sitting in it right now. So enjoy that. That's your tax dollars at work.
It's a very nice furniture.
Yes. The fact that they use those windows, I'm still so pleased with that. Article 12 is the authorization for the lease payment for an ambulance. Okay. So talking with Chief Kessler, this is just the authorization to go do it. He doesn't anticipate funding needed till FY25. So I put this over here, no money, but just, I want you to keep this in the back of your mind because now you're going to have 2 lease payments. This one should be about 70,000. This one's going to be about 75,000 that you're making annually. So $150,000 from somewhere annually for pieces of equipment. Okay,
So
that's a lot.
Well, we're not making a payment this year. We don't know how much. It's
No,
gonna-
because this is just authorization to be able to basically, sort of like we did with the track list. We did it a couple
Right,
years
right.
in advance. And then we knew the first year it wasn't going to come in, so it was really a gamble on the timing. This one, it would just be starting the process. So he said no amount at this point, just the
Kim-
authorization.
Kim,
Article
what's the-
12,
Kim,
is-
what's the length of those leases?
so it's still to be determined, depending on rates and amount. So right now, so originally he was giving an estimate about 425,000 and a couple of different options at 5 years and 7 years, but this is all hypothetical, right? Based upon authorization. But then just last week, he got a lead potentially on another one at only 350,000 built through some program. So still TBD, very much TBD, depending on where and how and when they can get what they need. So,
Those are
This
still
one-
leases, that's not purchasing?
yeah,
Those are
no,
all-
it's still leasing. We could never, so just to go back to that, because people ask me this one a lot. Like, why are we leasing? Well, I'll put my annual plug in. So we have $200,000 in CapEx, okay, total. We have $1 million in stabilization. We are currently, after this town meeting, $500,000 short of target in CapEx, and we are $100,000 short in stabilization. And both of these percentages from the long-range financial plan, I think this one's 5 and this one's 3, are very low in my opinion. One of the reasons that there's no money in this CapEx account is because there is a cap of $150,000 in the town's bylaws about how much we are allowed to put into the account annually, right? So that's something that needs to be reviewed in the future. There's an easy fix that could potentially, when you have a good year in the future, when money is coming in from somewhere and you have the chance to put more money aside in CapEx, do it, right? So that's, I mean, all told, and I mean, people say that all the time, capital plan, and how come you don't have this and you don't have that, but just taking a look at this, I mean, we have $1 million, okay? So that's one of the reasons. And so I say this to you, with this lease payment and this track list, it's $150,000 a year, presumably for the next 5 to 7 years that you're going to have to pay for from somewhere. Okay. Just keep it in your mind. So the track list we talked about already, kind of a mess. So when this was authorized, was done, so the funding source was dedicated to be CapEx. For whatever reason, it got paid for when the bill came in out of the operating budget for this year. It's bygones now, but the point is it needs to be paid for out of a correct account going forward. So this would be that payment for you can actually make the choice depending on where we are with year-end transfers. I don't mean to overcomplicate this, but like you can either use this money towards the payment for FY23 if you need to, if perhaps we need the money back for our operating budget since it was never supposed to be spent there out of 23, or you can use this allocation for 24 depending on where we are at the end. You have some flexibility there, but you need to authorize a payment one way or another. If you do decide to use this one for 23, you're going to need to do another one when free cash gets certified in November. Okay, just as a heads up. And then, so that one's authorized. The reason that's back here, so both the authorization and the payment amount are on the warrant because the lease is actually over 3 years, and so it needs town meeting approval. There was some mix up about length of time and what could be authorized and not authorized, but either which way, it's got to be voted on. If by chance it doesn't pass, which is the next question, then what would happen is that lease would actually just get broken up into 3 smaller leases that are authorized, but we'd rather just clean it up and do it the right way. So, and then the next one is Article 14, and I believe they're here to talk about it, right? They're in the room. Engineering design work, the senior center.
That's engineering design work for the septic system and also the septic and well, and the additional for the design build out for the cost for an estimated replacement for expansion on our building. This has been in progress since 2018, 2019. Pandemic and everything else slowed it down, and we're just trying to get this off to the ground and get firm costs so that we can move forward. We need the help of a group here to get us money to do that. We have a firm price for quote for $10,000 for building cost design. And we were anticipating somewhere around $15,000 for well and septic. So we're looking at a $30,000 amount that originally we were looking for at the last meeting. I see the number's 25,000.
I just put a swag there today based on what came in related to free cash. I mean, my opinion, you've got an extra 10 that you could put here now. You could put 35 if you needed to.
Yes.
Now that we know we have no other needs from free cash.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this would get the project started, which is one of our goals, to really get identification of the needs and get this moving forward. Then, of course, we need the select board, as I said before, if this passes, to appoint a committee, a formal committee to move us forward, and then look at the finance committee to figure out when we would have potentially some debt coming off so that we wouldn't increase the tax burden. I don't know the ins and outs of your budget right now, when things come off the sheet. But this would give us a strong working document to move forward. It also would link us in with the project going next door, which is the housing, because we abut that area, and there's an acre of parking that we'll need for expansion. So it'd be good to understand that implication of storage ins and outs to meet the capacity while we're doing that other project or while that project is in play. I think they do need to be indirectly linked, but they do need to be linked. The percentage of people in town is 28% of the population of seniors. And Amy's touted her numbers many times. I think we're moving back off the pandemic. Programs are up.
We have a capacity issue.
Yeah, we can't.
Our main room holds 35, 50 tops. 50
Well,
tops.
50 prior to pandemic,
Right.
but we try to have space, but yeah, and we have to limit our numbers for programs, and we are using that as our multi-purpose room. Like, you folks move the tables today, we're doing that 2, 3, 4 times a day to compensate for different activities. So.
And on the outside, people are using it for scouts, and
Yes.
they're using our facility too.
The Lions, the Scouts.
And also maintains the food pantry for the town.
And the emergency.
That's good
service.
general purpose. So I'd ask this board to approve that amount and get it started. I think it knocks off a year of just trying to figure out what to do again, in my opinion.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
I guess my expectation was that we would sort of just, you can run us through this
Okay,
and then just go down one by one and take a vote on each article.
okay. So
So-
Article 15 is water filtration system for the town hall campus. We are asking for an earmark and some help for funding on this, but right now the estimates are all over the place, but the odds are likely that the costs related to it would come in sometime between now and November town meeting. So I strongly advise you to put some money aside from stabilization in order to combat this issue. in case it becomes an emergency situation. As you know, we still do not have running water, or if you don't know, at the town hall campus. And so we will need to really make some additional, improvements in order to get back to where we need to be.
The estimate on the 100K comes from where?
So that came from a conversation that we were having with both Woodard and Curran, the water people we're working with on our water project, and then just from the design people we're working with, UEL, and the firm we're working with the campus, which is we have individual amounts for the hookups and the costs related specifically to the well, but a water filtration system, depending on how specific it has to be, could be in the upward range from, at the time they said $150,000. So like I said, I did ask very specifically for water, for an earmark for this, for the state budget. So hopefully we'll get some assistance on it, but I think, worst case scenario, we don't need it, you can move it back, but I don't think you want to be unprepared in case something happens between now and November. Article 17, well, 16 is just the water enterprise fund.
Question.
Yep.
What is the campus doing now for water? How are toilets being flushed?
So we have a temporary approval from DEP to use the water and for flushing. We just don't have drinking water like the sinks are not operational. So we have, water coolers and those things on the campus, but we can't get full approval until we fix the problems.
So Kim, just refresh my memory. This is the ongoing issue of the new well, the old well that was in the underneath the elevator or wherever it was.
Yes, and so, right, the water testing related to the new well, I don't have the report here, but it came back, it has PFAS and it's got all these types of concentrations in it that basically require a system like just installed up at MISCO in order to basically filter out all the particles that are not we want in the water. So we don't know though until we do like a really drill down, like a more specific testing related to once the well is closer to being fully operational for the actual purpose of drinking, will we know exactly how concentrated and how intensive a system we're going to need.
And just for my knowledge, we didn't have this issue with the old well, with the quality of the water in the old
Well,
well.
let's say this, if we did, we didn't know.
Okay.
So, and it wasn't an issue, but.
Can I just nip to that point? The existence of the PFAS is a new issue that has been discovered. So it's something that was never really talked about before, but now the thought is that it is a problem. And they're not even sure, when I say they, the experts, are not even sure what is a safe or unsafe concentration.
Right.
All they're saying now is that we have to do something to filter it out. And this number is still, from what I'm told from the water department, is still it's a swag.
Yeah, it is. I just don't want to see you get caught
No, we have to
without
do.
something set aside. And if we had another place to put it or take it from, I would say so, but you won't have the opportunity between now and November unless you have another special town meeting. FinCom reserve only has $23,000 in it. You won't have it, right? So it would be wise to put it aside for this purpose. And then if you don't end up needing it, put it back, just in case.
We have made, as Kim talked about, the state, but also our new congressman was here a couple of months ago, and we went for a walk around the historic district. While we did, I was explaining to him about our needs, and we have contacts and reached out about earmarks and federal assistance, some of the shovel-ready projects and things. So we're working trying to find money outside of stabilization in our budget. But right now, we have to do this because we have to, it's almost like a contingency.
Yeah.
And just from my own knowledge, is there like a yearly testing of these public water sources? Like how do we know this going forward if there's another issue? Like, what's the protocols that we have for?
So public water supplies have to be tested regularly. So typically we have, I'm Michael Medley could tell you more about this. You know, for any building that gets used and has, you know, groups over a certain number, we have a responsibility in order to verify the quality of the water that's produced there. And so we have to do annual testing.
Okay.
You do monthly testing. At the senior center, our water is tested every month.
Thank you.
I think it's about is it $2,500 a year for the testing? I only know the annual
Yes,
amount.
that company Whitewater, right?
Yeah.
Because they test,
They're very good.
they test the, you know, the enterprise or the ratepayers. They
That's the
weekly.
filtration system. Hope for the
Right.
best. Water Enterprise Fund, this is basically just to, they have their own separate budget that has to be approved. It'll be as part of the warrant. You'll see it, the article. Then Article 17, these are the revolving fund limits, right? None of them have changed since last year. They're the same. And so Article 20, 21, and 22 are all,
What, I guess, if nothing's changed, why do we have to vote on that every single year?
Every year.
you
we
have to vote on, yeah.
Yes, we have to vote on the limit. And in theory, we could, right, Mike, we could change the limit. And we have changed them from time to time, depending on circumstances.
Yeah.
But it's a state law, it's a requirement that every year, like it says,
Okay.
Mass General Law 53E and a half.
Okay, you can't just say, it's this going forward, and if you want to change it.
Right.
just-
Right, we have to, every year it has to be voted.
That's fine.
Right.
There's a lot of articles.
It certainly is.
So 20, 21, and 22 are transfers back into the bank. So these are all articles that were approved for different things. Inman Hill, Inman Pond, Meadowbrook Woods. They didn't end up using this remainder amount for whatever reason, and so they're putting the money back. Okay. The Affordable Housing Coordinator position, they are entering into a regional agreement with CMRPC to share a position. They want to fund it for 2 years, FY24 and FY25. This is half of the cost of that, this $83.60. Article 24 is the buckets article we talk about, which is the, so we receive a certain amount of money for being a CPA community. I think that amount is like $780,000. It gets divided up into these different buckets, right? There's not really an expenditure here. I just left it on here because it's a financial article of interest. And that's what I was talking about before, which is these balances here, like open space, you can see up here, I've added the amount up here, 66. So they include the bucketed amounts already, the allocations, so that when they're spending from these accounts, you know that they have the money, right? That's important.
Usually it is.
Yeah, Article 25 is ball field lights. 85,000 is the estimate. This one is it's a match for a historic grant for the records room. The amount is like 177, yeah, 176,250. Coming from two different, so you can see this here, like it's coming from two different locations because, right? There's only $78,000 in historic, right? So you can use any number of combinations as long as the project qualifies. And again, Mike could talk about this because he's on the CPC, but each of these categories have very specific uses. So some of them can be combined and some of them cannot. So you can see they're using two different ones here. This was the 28 was a placeholder for funding potentially needed for the RFP for 52 Providence Street, which is the project that they were just talking about next to the senior center. Unfortunately, we received no proposals for that project, and so we do not need an allocation of funds at this point in order to help subsidize the project with funding from CPC. 29 is a purchase of land. Is it 50, what's the address at Providence Street? 52? What is the address of this property? Does anybody know?
52.
Not you. It's across the street.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, we're 62.
Mike Morale, do you know the?
It says, you asked about 29?
Yeah,
It says 73 Providence Street.
there you go. 73 Providence Street. It's a parcel of land. They'll do a full presentation about the value to the community in buying it. Obviously, I'm assuming they've already made their presentation to the FinCom. If not, then you'll see it at town meeting, but that,
Have we
I have
seen
not
that?
seen the presentation.
okay.
Have we
Is-
seen that?
If you, so you know where it is, it's a piece of property that is, the house and the barn is at the intersection of Providence Street and Hartford Ave East, where those are, it's known as the Paddock property.
Yep.
And it's a large tract of land that goes up actually behind where the fire station is. And the idea is that this article is to get the town has first right of refusal because it's farmland. So the idea is to authorize the select board to enter into an agreement with the family to buy the property, to put a conservation restriction on it, and for some of it, to make some of it into fields. And then some of it would be affordable housing, because again, we have that issue. The discussion is, we had the building inspector inspect the house, which is a Cape-style house. The idea is to turn that into an affordable house and then do something with the barn. They thought that we could maybe even make apartments out of it. It's not structurally, doesn't make sense to do that, but there's still other things that could be done with it. But there'll be a full presentation by the land use committee.
Okay. Now that you say that, I think I remember seeing a presentation at one point at one of our joint meetings.
And the argument was made to me by Ann Meza on the land use committee was that, they've given us the CPC, money that the town, it's a surcharge on our tax we've been paying for years. We get anywhere as much as a 250% matching grant from the state. And they give us this money for the purpose of these different areas, including affordable housing. So this would be a way for us to use money that's been given to us to actually create some affordable housing and have a plan. It's been something we've been talking about for 20 years. And between the area next to the senior center across the street and this, we can begin to make some progress. I will say that I did talk about this with Representative or Congressman Auchincloss. And all he said, there was one thing he did respond. He says, that's a really good idea because we need to find ways to create more housing. And it seemed like it got his ear.
So I just want to ask the question of the FinCom. Was this presented to us at a meeting that I might not have been at?
I do remember, I thought I did.
It was at one of the meetings when we were there together, one of the joint.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
it didn't ring a bell until there was until the keeping it conservation. And now I'm picturing the map in my head of where the land goes, so.
you showed maps.
I want to say this, I'm not certain that it did, only because of the timing of this particular project. The land, the offer on the land and the consideration of the purchase were really within the last 45 days or so. And even up until, I want to say, 3 select board meetings ago, all of that was confidential, right? So it's very possible that you did not have a specific presentation on it. I will say, and Mike's right about his points, but I also, I'm not even saying specific to this purchase. There's absolutely a value in understanding whether or not this is the correct purpose for that land, right? So I think just as an exercise, and let's assume that this is, the FinCom and the select board need to consider all possibilities when things are presented like this. And unfortunately, because the amount of funding that we often have available is in CPA funding rather than in stabilization or something else, we don't get to consider other purposes for the land, for me, and I had mentioned to the select board just in concept, it's not very specific to this, but when a parcel of land like this adjacent to the town's currently zoned industrial park becomes available, my reaction is not to keep it as open space, right? So, but that doesn't mean that that's correct. It just means that some due diligence is involved related to the project. And if perhaps we had funding available in another way or deeper pockets with stabilization or something, we'd have other possibilities to consider. But to your point, those are the sorts of things that need to be thought about when considering land purchases like this. That's all,
And the
right?
rest of it, what I would say, and Kim is right about everything she said, and it was discussed initially in executive session because it needed to be, but then I'm pretty sure it was March 29th, which was the meeting I was not at, which was a joint meeting, I believe, is when it was discussed. But this article is simply to put the money aside and authorize the select board to make the purchase. So this isn't the last step. This is just the next step in the process to
Right.
allow us to enter into the agreement if it was something that the board decided to do.
So that's the purchase amount. The conservation restriction amount is 10. Article 30 is 10,000. And then 32 is a transfer back that was, I think it was gutters for the records room that didn't end up getting spent. So that's going to be transferred back.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
32? Yeah.
It says 31 here, it says the town will transfer a sum.
31?
31 on what I'm reading here. 10,000 is for easement plan for Morrison Drive. 31 and 32 is CPC.
What's 30? Well, what's 31?
31 is for 73 Providence Street.
Okay. And so that's the conservation restriction.
Nope. We're seeing 30 and 32 and 35.
Right.
I'm not
So-
seeing an amount there for 30.
Are 30, without me switching off this page, so are any of them not financial articles?
I'm looking, well, I'm okay. So 29 is a transfer of the sum of 990.
Yeah.
30 is the conservation, I think 30 just authorized the conservation restriction. So that's the one that doesn't have money with it.
30, so 31 is the one that moves the money?
Yes, it looks like 31 is say transfer a sum of money, so that's the 10,000.
Okay. Okay,
And 32 is for the records room gutters.
perfect. Transferring
Alright, so-
back. Yes.
29 is to buy the property.
Yes.
Yep.
30 is not a money article, that's to
It's
establish.
to authorize the conservation
To authorize
restriction.
us to make a conservation restriction.
Yep.
And then 31 is actually the sum of money to transfer to make the conservation restriction.
Okay, so 30 failed, 31 would have to be passed over.
Correct.
And.
Well, it wouldn't have to be, we just wouldn't have any place to send it.
Yeah, okay. Sure. Okay, so technically, if somebody wanted the town to purchase the property, but use it for something other than conservation, they could support Article 29, but they would not support Article 30.
Well, the only issue with that is
You could-
CPC funding is only
Right.
certain things.
Okay.
So
Right.
if we authorize it, and you know what, those are questions that can be asked by CPA, answered by CPA on the floor. You know,
So I guess,
Right.
Though I would say it's hard for us to vote and approve this without those answers ahead of
I
time.
was just about to.
well,
say that.
well, I think I would say that it's important for you to understand that the purpose is stated, right? It's 990,000 from Community Preservation Act money, right?
I mean, technically, we can abstain, right? Because our vote is about voting recommendation
Let me
to the
just-
town, right?
Yeah, no, you are
Right.
right, to make a recommendation
Yeah.
about spending the money, but it says right in Article 29, transfer a sum of money from CPA, it's 990,000, to spend, to authorize the selectmen to buy it for the purpose of open space, affordable housing, and/or recreational purposes.
Right.
So those are the three purposes. So the
Right.
thing is, would you want to spend this, now to say, but we can't spend 990 in CPA funds to say, resell it for industrial use,
Right.
right? This limits, again, the money's given, but it's got strings on it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
Just like,
And I mean, and ultimately, even if we were to just, and I'm not opposed to the purchase of it for CPA for the purpose, but like, even if you wanted to consider something like that, this is why you have to start thinking about what's in your bank accounts. Where would you pay for it from, right? So like, that's the stuff you want to start thinking about for the future, right? When you're making other investments of other types, right? So just,
If I can, Kim, it also
Yeah.
plays into, we talk about, there are other non-money articles on here about passing an overlay district, which would allow us to do a lot more with the commercial property. It would make it much more valuable and turn it into, commercial revenue producing tax base. Because that money is where you come from so that you can parlay it into other things.
right.
the overlay district is, I remember that, right? There was 3 different proposals on that one.
And it's all in the business areas, the Route 60 and Route 140.
Right.
Some are maybe just one parcel, or is it gonna be all the parcels? We may end up having to make an amendment on the floor, change it, which is what's great about town meeting.
So just back to the question on 73 properties, is there a document that describes the purchase and
Yes.
the potential uses? And
It's available, it is available in the, it's available, with the town clerk and online. But again, Nick, specifically, it says right in the article, and I know we're taking time here, but I want to read this. Article 29 says to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money from the community preservation accounts to purchase 60 acres of the Paddock property located at 73 Providence Street, Mendon, Worcester District. It gives you the book and page. It says, to use for CPA-approved open space, affordable housing, and/or recreation purpose. So it's $990,000 of CPA money to be used, and what this is going to do is authorize the town, the select board, to make this purchase. And it would be, if we purchase it, the use would be limited to either keeping it as open space, making affordable housing, or recreational purposes. So it's for those combined of those 3. And
Right.
keep in mind, specifically, there is a 70-year-old 3-bedroom Cape-style house and a barn on the property. And the thought is that would be turned into affordable housing and sold so the CPA would actually recoup some of the money, back.
right, but
And so add to affordable housing stock.
right, but we're taking it off the tax rolls. by
Taking what
purchasing.
off the tax? Well, right now, yeah, it is, right now it
That's
is,
absolutely correct.
that is correct. It is, right now, it's on as farmland, but if the select board decided not to buy it, then it could be commercially sold and developed into either residential and/or industrial use. That's correct.
Right.
And
No, I-
continue.
I'm just, and again, it might have been a meeting that I was not at because it's just not ringing a bell just because it's such a large number. I just want to make sure that we've, as a FinCom group, that we've kind of vetted it and discussed it. And if we have as a committee and I just wasn't there, then that's fine.
No, so what I would like to do is, this is just going through them all, and then I'd like to just start back up at the top and we can vote on our support or non-support of each article. I have a proposed approach of how I would like to address this one, and we can talk to that after we've gone through them all.
Okay.
So
Great.
is there any more information about the article that people need to hear about? Okay. All right, so
Yeah.
I am personally comfortable with understanding the approach on and the impacts of 29, 30, and 31.
I'm just gonna look and see if we got any backup materials on any of it. Right? That would, well, and for the next one too, for the parks, for the water,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have anything readily available for those either. And I thought that they might be here.
I think if, let me look and see if I can find it in the town clerks, because I know she talked about putting someplace for, so it could be there.
So I can talk about the last two while we're looking for the parks one. So Article 36, we need to buy some AEDs for outside and some external. We talked about that. I think we're all aware of that, right? Recommended, right, recommended funding source, free cash, right? One-time spend, right? And then this one, Article 37, comes out of last year's successful Rock the Block event. So at the time, so I've been having a conversation with the select board about this. We do have a line in the budget for community celebrations, but it only has $400 in it, right? So when the startup for Rock the Block began last year, they got a ton of donations and it was a very successful program, but they didn't have startup money essentially to get the program started, to start booking things. And so we had to hurry up and sort of use selectmen miscellaneous, like authorize the spending, like to get this thing going. Going forward, there should be a dedicated account specifically for these types of events so that, because the revenue itself doesn't necessarily come right back into the same account, right? It goes to, miscellaneous revenue, but you want to have a place that that you can go to for these types of things so that you can start doing more of them, right? Like if there's a program like this. So I put $20,000 here because that's basically the amount. There is an account still from a transfer that has about $20,000 so that because that's the remainder of what was left from spending and bringing in. It was very successful. It basically paid for itself, but I think you want to be allocating something annually towards this idea. Sorry, my dogs are barking. My kids just walked in the door, so I'm trying to be quiet.
No worries.
So,
I'm good and understand Article 37. I remember Article 35 was for them, right? That was the question that we were looking up. I remember that one, they want to be able to do their own testing, which made it more efficient and actually ended up costing less to the town.
yes.
And I know there was some clarification for it that there is still a need, to do the official testing. But the way that's been explained to me, if we have this and they can do 2 of these tests in a row within 24 hours that passed, then that's acceptable for them not to have to close it.
Yeah, it sounded like it was
Keep
an
it
opportunity
closed.
to be able to keep the
Yes.
beach open more. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Excellent.
thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
If you wouldn't mind continuing to drive and just scrolling back up to the top. So I guess we got to go one by one and do a vote on each one, or can we maybe?
You need a recommendation on a funding source for each, at least.
Right, so do we need to vote on Article 1 and 2? Okay.
No.
All right, so we'll need to vote on Article 3 then, right?
Yep.
Okay, so can I get a motion to move from free cash $2,409.46 to cover bills of a prior year?
I'd like to have a little more discussion.
You can move it, second it, and then we can discuss it, right?
Somebody can make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, seconded?
Nick?
Second.
All right, discussion?
What was that bill for?
It's for Civic Plus. It's the website. I saved it in the folder. Hold on, I'm sharing my screen. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is.
And where are we getting the money to pay it?
Free cash. So you can see the dates on it.
My question is, I can't see the date.
Okay.
Is that from last year?
Yes.
It's been sitting somewhere for a year? Is that correct?
So we missed the opportunity to pay it in the correct fiscal year, right? So it looks like it was due whenever the billing was due. So let's assume this said May and it didn't get paid by July 15th, right?
Of last year.
Yes, and so it's
Yeah.
still, now it's unpaid, yes.
So it's been unpaid since
Yeah.
last year.
And it requires a 9/10 vote anyways, right?
Right, right. So I just want to understand it. My next question is, if we did pay it on time, what account would be paying that bill?
So in our old budget, it would come out of our computer maintenance contracts line. I'll show you. In the old budget, it would have come, all of our computer contracts were in 199, which is the town hall budget. Hold on. This is what's exciting about it. They're right here, right? They're in this 125,666. So this includes our financial system, our websites, our World Band contracts. Everything is in there. But in the new budget,
No, stop right there.
Yep.
Now, so we had a budget that would have been paid out.
Yep.
At the end of the last fiscal year, how much money was left over in that account?
well,
Could have dropped into free cash.
it looks like right here, well, it looks like 22 was 115. So these numbers are downloaded directly from the financial system from last year before we switched over. So it looks
Right.
like 115 is what was the actual spend from that category.
And what was originally budgeted was 125 plus.
It probably wasn't that much, but it probably was right around, I mean, it probably
So how
was,
much money dropped into the general fund or free cash when it was certified? If it didn't get spent to pay that bill,
It went into free cash.
right? And how much count, that's what I'm trying to get at. I need a figure, I can't see those figures.
well,
Follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is there a
yeah,
reason-
well, I mean, we can
I
assume from
think the
this without
Point is
having the,
that rather than the $2,400 being paid for that bill, it remained in there and it moved into, and it may have been transferred somewhere else, but it wasn't spent and it dropped into free cash, which is the source we're using to pay for it now.
Right, so what was the figure that dropped in the free cash? That's what I'm,
More than 2,400. I don't know what the exact number was, but it was more than that.
right.
In other words, that money was not spent to use for something else.
right, and that's the question is, how much money from that particular account did not get spent last year and dropped into the free cash bucket?
I'm going to assume it's about $9,000 because I think the previous year actual I think the budgeted amount for 2022 is 125 even. I'd have to go back in KVS and look or pull up the old budget, but we spent 115. So there's somewhere around $9,000 was left over in that account.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. So what you're saying is, because you don't have last year's figures up there, right? Otherwise, you'd be able to do some simple math and tell me exactly what it is.
Well, what I need is the
I can't see-
FY22
I
budget.
can't see the numbers that you have up there from a previous.
The
That's
FY
what I'm
the
getting at.
FY 22 budget numbers are not up there, right?
Okay.
Only the actuals are up there.
These are actuals.
That's why I'm
right?
asking, because I can't see it up there.
Yeah, so it should be about $9,000. I
Okay.
mean, or it's $4,000 or $4,500. I mean, I'm gonna, without, off the top of my head, my guess is that computer maintenance line is probably around 120, like 125, 115, because it doesn't raise that much per fiscal year, right? The contracts only increase about 3%, just guessing here. But for the new budget, this is the great part about for the new year, we have a separate category now for these exact things. It's got its own budget. It's very exciting for me. Right here, management information systems and technology. It's all right in here. So you can see we're budgeted 140 for computer maintenance contracts, 15 for new equipment. It's all separated out. So all the old budgets, everything was gathered in this one massive 199 account, this other government accounts. Now it's all very specific where the spending is and what it's for and where it belongs, including where the positions are for next year. They're not all now grouped under town hall as a thing. They are with the department that they belong to.
Any further discussion? So do I, not an all in favor, I guess,
Approve it.
yeah, all in favor to approve moving, was it $2,309.46 out of free cash to support bills of a prior year?
It's actually approved to recommend that, that everybody vote to do it, because it still has to be voted by 9/10 of the people in
Right.
the affirmative to move it.
Yes,
So,
from free cash. The key is free cash. We need you to pick a source.
so, a vote to recommend to the town to move out of free cash 2,000, is it 409?
Yes.
46? I think it was
Yes.
309.46 on the bill.
Oh, yeah, good.
Look at that.
Just-
$100.
Saved $100. Perfect. Love that.
Cool seeing them right into free
So
cash.
what we're doing, we're not really voting on the money, we're voting to recommend this article.
Yeah.
And give a positive
Right.
recommendation to the.
We're voting to recommend to the town
That
to,
they should pay this.
to move from free cash $2,309.46
Yes.
out of free cash to pay bills of a prior year.
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nick, we need you to vote.
Aye.
Great. Okay, so next one, Article 6. Can I get a motion to support raising and appropriating $6,500 for the cyclical inspection program?
I'll make a motion. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna try and make it, and we were gonna second it like we did last year to make it easy for the, is everything in the minutes?
That's fine.
So I'll make the motion.
You can move, you can second, we'll call it that. All right. Discussion. All those in favor of recommending to the town to raise and appropriate $6,500 for the cyclical inspection program?
Aye.
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 Great. Can I get a motion to raise and appropriate can I get a motion to support, recommend to the town to raise and appropriate $17,000 to update valuation account?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of recommending to the town to raise and appropriate $17,000 to update the valuation account?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Can I get a motion to raise and appropriate $2,500 to support, to recommend to the town to raise and appropriate $2,500 to the police matching grants?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Discussion. All in favor of recommending to the town to raise and appropriate $2,500 for the police matching grants?
Aye.
Aye.
Don't worry, we get,
Thank you. And let's see, we need to do we need to do Article 9? Yeah.
7,500, yeah, for the opioid stuff.
Okay. Kim, what was
Yeah.
other?
It's a transfer from the settlement amount that we got to be able to use it in the police department's budget.
Get a motion to, I'm gonna do it this way. Can I get a recommendation to support Article 9 in the amount of $7,500?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of recommending to the town to support Article 9 in the amount of $7,500?
Aye.
Aye. Get a motion to support get a motion to recommend to the town to support Article 10 in the amount of $133,306 for the FY24 police station debt payment.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of recommending to the town to support Article 10 in the amount of $33,306.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, Nick, you said aye?
Yes.
All right, so Article 12. Get a motion to recommend to the town to support Article 12. For the undisclosed amount to prepare for the lease of an ambulance.
Actually, all you really need to do with this one is recommend that you, that the town authorize the select board to enter into a lease agreement for up to 7 years.
Do we even have to recommend this, or it doesn't have a dollar amount?
Well,
Yeah.
that's questionable, because there's no money for
Yeah,
you.
I would say, this, and we had this discussion before. It used to be like all these CPA funds, like the one about 990.
Yeah.
A long time ago, the FinCom had nothing to do with it. It was strictly the CPC. But we argued, I think Mike and I argued, that if it's anything to do with the town incurring debt or spending a financial article, that the FinCom should weigh in on it. So I would argue with this one, if the town's gonna authorize the select board to enter a lease, then it's not a bad idea, I think the FinCom should weigh in on it.
Yes,
Is it a good idea or not? I mean, again, it's ultimately up to the townspeople, but they're expecting you to do the diligence. So do we, should we even enter into it, even though we're not spending any money this year yet, but it's still entering into it? I don't think you have to, but I don't think it hurts.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so can I get a motion to recommend, sorry, what article number was it?
12, to authorize, recommend to authorize.
Recommendation for Article 12 to authorize the select board to enter into a lease agreement for the ambulance.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Discussion. Quick question, the current status of the ambulance we currently have and finances around that.
I believe the lease is paid.
Yep.
It's still operating, but it's not. And I'm not sure if this is the one that was diesel or not, but I know that, I don't think it is, but we had a diesel one. And for this particular purpose, diesel is not a good choice for an ambulance.
Yeah.
I think before long, it's gonna be an electric one, frankly. And it's really much healthier for a patient not to have to breathe any kind of exhaust.
Yeah.
But the point is, at one point, we were putting aside money every year so that we would have it.
Yep.
Right, but right now, we're out of sync with that, so.
Yeah.
That's why this, we have to authorize the lease, but we don't have to pay a lease yet.
Right, so are we handing in a new ambulance and handing in our current ambulance and getting a new ambulance, or will we have to?
Kim, I don't think so.
I'm not
Certainly
sure
not
about
yet.
I'm not sure about the trade-in aspect, but I know that 24 is the last year of the current lease payment on our current ambulance. It's right here, 42,314.
Yep.
I would assume it's still, they last for 7 years, right? Or 7 to 10 years. So my guess is that it's still going to be operational.
Yeah. And many times they do keep one, because it's always nice to have a backup.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right,
How old is that ambulance? 7 years? It's gonna be due.
Yeah.
If not this year, next year, it'll be put in front of us to get rid of it and get it.
oh, absolutely, yeah, and I'm not disappointed in having a backup available. So, okay, all those in favor of supporting Article 12 to recommend authorizing the select board to enter into lease for an ambulance?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, can I get a motion to recommend to the town to move from stabilization $75,000 for Article 13 for the trackless and dump truck payment?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of recommending to the town to move out of stabilization $75,000 to support the lease for the trackless and dump truck?
Aye.
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 Get a motion to move out of free cash $35,000 to support the senior center expansion engineering design work.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Discussion? In reference to the later article around the RFP, if we don't have a bid, are we actually, is there, part of doing it now was to support other work that was going on in the area, right? But if there's no bid, is there actually work?
Oh, that's not,
No, this was, again, these are estimates that we've received from people that we've used before. The geoengineering is one of them, Joel.
Yep.
And also Mike that we've used before. We have an email thread that has cost to do the building design.
are you referring to 52, the affordable?
Yeah, right,
That's
so,
something different.
yeah, I know, but you had said that there was benefits to doing this
Yeah.
now because it was going to tie into other work that was happening around the affordable housing project. And it sounds like we don't have a proposal for the affordable housing project, so is that work actually going on? Are we actually getting the benefit tying into other work? Is my-
I don't think we can we can't tie the wells together. We can't tie the septic systems together. The only thing we'd be looking to is to identify potentially open space land and areas to be able to support the septic discharge, so many gallons per individual person there. So the only thing that we need to tie into that land specifically would be to come back and say, we'll need so many acres and potentially. When I talked to, is it Ann? Yeah, Ann Mazar. She indicated that she had open land behind us or other land around us that if we needed to expand the acreage, not that we own it, but it'd be some way we could use that acreage for storage discharge.
Also the wells too.
So we should do that. So if they're not intimately linked, if both projects went forward, that's okay. I mean, we'll probably use the same, I would recommend we use the same people because they've walked the land. But we'll put that out to a bid for those.
This is all town-owned land.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's all town, it's not Ann Mazar's land.
Right. I'm sorry.
Town-owned land.
right.
Surely.
Earlier, there was a comment that spending this money now had a benefit because, you know, I get the length of the project that's been going on, but there was a benefit because the affordable housing project had similar engineering work happening simultaneously. So being able to ensure that the engineering firms are looking at the same land at the same time and making sure accommodations are being made, right?
Yeah, and speaking to Joel already, who's been looking at the well issue, because right now we're not an authorized well.
Yeah.
But speaking with Joel, he indicated that he has identified an area exclusively for our purposes at the senior center.
Yeah.
But it may be sitting in the affordable housing, 70, whatever that acreage, not in their property proximity, but in that parcel set. And I think we had, Dan was with us in those discussions, the water.
And Jack was as well.
But I think there's always leverage. If there's anything going on with the leverage, we should. We should be independent though, because if we start our mission with all the federal regs to get that thing taken care of, affordable housing, we'll probably complete before they will. Is my understanding. So I think if we move forward, the biggest benefit is we start to make progress on getting the center cost nailed down in a affordable way, not into what they used to call some extravagant plan, an affordable way for our town. Then we can start to project how we can get funding from the state, which we've already talked to our representatives. They're coming in next week,
Tuesday.
Tuesday. And we've got action items out to them to look to see if there's creative ways to help fund the long-term plan. If we do a little bit here, I think we get more from that. That's my opinion.
I agree 100%. And just so that you know, when you're talking about the well for this project here, that well, correct me if I'm wrong, is a public water supply. So the requirements to put a well in are a lot different than a private well.
Yeah.
I.e., like one you have, one I have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I think the faster we establish, instead of us
Establish dominance.
being pushed out,
Yeah.
the senior center should put their stake in the ground and everybody work around that.
Right.
instead of the other way around. Because I personally believe that the senior center is becoming one of the most important resources that this town's gonna have.
Well, we do have the food pantry and we have the emergency place to go. We have the food, we have some beds downstairs.
The interesting thing is, you know, I'm new to the senior center operation, and volunteering, but it's difficult to see these people, when Amy states, well, sign up on these lists if you don't, you know, we only have a capacity limit. So if we don't make that capacity limit, you're off the list. Sorry, we don't run 2 events. I think there's a definite need that the town has, and has had for a long time. So I, you know.
But thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that.
Any
I
other
know it's
discussion?
time for you young bucks to get fathom that you're gonna get old someday.
It comes
Trust me,
very
it'll get you.
quickly. You blink your eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't have to think old.
All right, any other discussion? All right, which,
Article 14 is what we're going to vote on.
article, oh, there it is, 14. All right, so, look to approve, or recommend to the town, to move $35,000 out of free cash to support the senior center expansion, engineering, design work.
Aye.
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 Great. All right, Article 15, get a motion to recommend to the town moving $100,000 out of stabilization into the water to support the water filtration system.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion?
I have a quick question on this. I don't know who mentioned, but did someone mention that the filtration system has to be similar? Did someone say to Misco, meaning, I'm assuming Misco Spring, was that what it was? What
We'll
was
say
it?
it's a system similar to the one that was installed at Misco.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's,
The school.
oh, the school, okay, got it, okay, and it's gonna have to be similar to that one.
In that it's gonna filter out these the same.
Yeah, the new, okay, got it, okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of recommending to the town moving $100,000 out of stabilization to support the water filtration system?
Aye.
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 Okay. Do we need to vote on Article 17? I think we do, right? Yeah. All right, can I get a motion to recommend to the town supporting the revolving fund limits as listed in Article 17, Library, Planning, Highway, Conservation Commission, Parks, Fire Department, Title V, and Police Department?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of supporting Article 17 with the amounts listed up here for Library, Planning Board, Highway, Conservation Commission, Parks?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay. I'm going to do Article 20, 21, and 22 together, since those are all moving money back in. Can I get a motion to recommend to the town supporting Articles 20, 21, and 22 for $600, $425 into land bank accounts?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of recommending the town to support Article 20, 21, and 22, moving $600, $400, and $2,500 back into land bank?
Aye.
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 Article 23, get a motion to recommend to the town moving $8,360 out of CPC for affordable housing coordinator.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion?
I'd like to clarify that. That is being supplied by, it's a shared affordable housing coordinator offered by the state. Is sharing it with, I'm not sure, a bunch of other towns. The town of Mendon's gonna get 4 hours a week for $16,000 a year. First year is free as an experiment to try it out. we did not have to come up with $16,000. But the committee, after discussing it, felt that instead of next year, well, if we, this coming year is free. So we have the option of weighing out the fact, is it worth the 16,000 or not? If it is, we've already got 8,000 in the bank towards it, so the following year is only another $8,000 hit instead of a $16,000 hit next year. The reasoning is nobody's got a crystal ball. Next year's budget, when we go to do this again next year, could be a lot tougher, or we could be flush. And we'll be deciding, did we get our money's worth? Like I said, if you do, there's pros and cons on it. If you do caveman math, 4 hours a week for $16,000, it comes out to something like $96 an hour. Okay. We gotta evaluate the end result after the year.
We can still evaluate at the end of the year without spending a dime.
True. So if we evaluate it and it's not worth it, just like we did in the previous 3 articles, we can put the money back.
We can. Okay.
So what we're trying to do is make the hit next year. If it's a goal for next year, the hit is only 8,000. Because we'll have more positive talking points to continue doing it.
Got it.
But if it works out and decided that no, we're not getting the best bang for the buck,
Yeah.
then that money goes back. And
I mean, I'll work for 4 hours for $8 grand. Okay, that's great context. I appreciate. So just to reconfirm, if we do not find it as valuable as advertised, that money can go back. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor of recommending to the town to support moving $8,360 out of CPC to support the Affordable Housing Coordinator? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so Article 25, get a motion to move 85,000 out of CPC to support installation of lights at the ball fields.
I'll make a motion.
second,
Discussion? All those in favor of recommending to the town to move 85,000 out of CPC to support installation of lights at the ball field?
Aye.
Aye.
before we continue on, I feel I should make a disclosure that I sit on the CPA committee and I'm part of the voting to bring this forward. I don't think that's gonna present a problem, but full disclosure. I don't know if I should be abstaining or not, but
I don't know the,
It's not an ethical issue.
right, I didn't think so,
Yes.
but
Right.
I figured that it should be for full disclosure.
nope, great, thank you.
Great.
Nick, you still needed to vote on the ball field one?
Aye.
Great. All right, Article 26. What does this have two amounts again? Sorry.
It's from two different sources.
Oh, okay. All right, can I get a motion to move 75,000 out of CPC historic and 101,250 out of CPC budget reserve to support funds for the grant match for the MPPF grant for the records room?
I'll make a motion.
Just a question on this one. Is this is this for the physical building or for the records?
Physical building.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, okay.
Any other discussion?
You're welcome.
All those in favor of recommending to the town to move 75,000 out of CPC historic and 101,250 out of CPC budget reserve to support funds for the grant match for the MPPF for records, for the records room building?
Aye.
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 Article 28, there's nothing we need to vote on there, right?
No.
Right. Article 29. So this is the one. All right, can I get a motion to support moving 900, to recommend to the town of moving 990,000 out of CPC funds to support the land purchase at 73 Providence?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion. So on this one, if we, can we abstain? Because we can always vote on this, right? Our recommendation to support doesn't remove this from the warrant. It just gives us, it just sets our opinion.
Right.
We could ask for a presentation from CPC, and then we will have a 30-minute meeting ahead of town meeting on the books where we could take a final vote at that point on this specific article. So that is one approach to taking that, if we all abstain.
One other thing I will say, I did look, and if you go to the homepage, and you click right on the big button in the middle,
Mhm.
the map for that article is, it can't be seen. I don't know if, I probably could even bring it up and share it if you wanted me to. It's not necessary to do it now.
Yeah,
What you could do is, you can punt it to,
my preference is to punt, and I'd like to discuss further with the committee.
and the other thing to keep in mind is that for next Wednesday night, 2 days before the meeting,
Yep.
the select board has a meeting.
Yep.
And we're going to be, I don't know if we're gonna go through these articles, but we could throw it on there if you guys wanted to come and hear it that night, if she's available. Or you can just wait until the night of the annual town meeting and get there a half hour before and have her go over it then.
If
I
we
always
can,
would rather not do it
yeah,
at night. I'd always rather have time to, really talk about it,
yeah,
and.
agreed. If you could put it on your agenda, and then we can at least, remotely be a part of a presentation at a minimum. I don't think we need to all be there and have quorum to vote on it. We can.
Well, we can always vote on it the night of the meeting, but
Yeah,
you want to get your information before the meeting,
yeah,
so you're not backed into a corner and make a decision.
Right, that's
Yeah.
nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
yeah.
But the other thing I will tell you is that I happen to know the town moderator pretty well, since he's my
Yeah.
son. And he's planning one day next week to actually have a remote meeting. So any town residents that want to tune in can, and because he's going to go through all the articles.
Yep.
And, he can also, I'm sure he'll actually reach out to Kim or rather Ann, or one of us to go over it, go over it in detail.
Okay.
there.
It sounds like there are multiple opportunities for us to have a broader discussion. We do not need to have called a meeting to just simply discuss with the committee. And we can just make sure we've gathered enough information so that at the 30-minute meeting that we posted right before town meeting, we will have all of the information moving to it. Okay. All right, so if we all abstain, then we are able to punt it until a future meeting. So all those in favor of recommending to the town to move 990,000 out of CPC for the purchase of land at 73 Providence?
I'll make a motion.
No, so all those,
Can I make a motion to abstain, right? So.
Yeah, just, you can just choose to pass over, not just vote on it.
Yeah.
okay, all right, that's all. All right, we'll just-
That's
all
fine.
right, so, do we all need to vote on whether we want to pass over?
Nope, you can just call on it and just pass over. You just don't have to call for the vote.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, well, we're gonna pass over this article. All right, get a motion to recommend to the town to support moving 10,000 out of CPC budget reserve for the conservation restriction for 73 province.
And again, if you don't, if 30 doesn't pass, right, or I'm sorry, if 29 doesn't pass, then
I'm gonna pass over this and we should do 29
Well-
and 31 together, right?
For conservation easement, that's the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
But we can still have a little discussion here.
Okay.
And I'm not in favor of that. Because what it does is it take that amount of land off the tax rolls forever. Because once you put a conservation restriction, on it, you need more than an act of God to pull it off.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
would
it's
never happen.
important to understand the 990, one of the purposes of that is affordable housing. So they would pay taxes on the affordable housing, it's just because it's affordable, so lesser amount of money, won't be as much revenue.
Yep.
But, there's, again, it's a combination of open space, which doesn't generate any tax revenue. Affordable housing generates some, the recreational purpose doesn't generate any. Like Mike said, the 10,000 to put the conservation restriction on it, basically the areas that the town could never sell it to use it for anything else. That's what,
Okay.
so it basically locks it up.
And the reasoning for that, is we have a habit of buying pretty much worthless land and taking it off the tax rolls. Okay? If somebody owns it, they still gotta pay tax, even though it's undeveloped.
Yeah.
They're not paying premium rate on their taxes, but they still have to pay taxes. That land is still generating a tax revenue for the town. And the more times we buy that land, because if it's a conservation, it's a wetland, you can't build on it anyway.
Well, this isn't for that purpose.
No,
But what this is to do is to make sure that this is open space, recreational space, and this particular piece will tie a couple of existing pieces up around Applewood, will tie them together. So it gives people access to the contiguous space. But this just brings up the point that it would be good to have a presentation to explain where the map. That's why if you look on the page, you'll see where the existing ones are, where this is, and how it kind of bridges the gap between it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we have the parklands going down Millville Road, you can walk and have, contiguous space, and this kind of ties some more of that. It does that type of a situation.
But you could have Article 29 pass and Article 31 fail and still be okay with it, because the CPA restriction has to do more with the affordable housing, correct?
Yeah, right, it gives you, what it does is, it gives the select board the authority to purchase the land.
Correct.
Right. And then the CPA to do, the land use committee to do what they want to do with it.
Article 31 is just putting a restriction on it.
Right.
And it's gonna cost $10,000 to put that restriction on it.
And that, so we're gonna spend $10,000 to put a restriction on it, of which we will get no further revenue.
Right. And that's,
We just make sure that we preserve it, whether it's more, fields or passive recreational space, so that townspeople have access to it.
I think this is difficult until we see it, to be honest with you.
I'm going to pass over the article until we've received the full presentation. We can vote with all the information. All right, Article 32. Get Get a motion to move 1,200, I'm sorry, Kim, where is this coming out of from other,
It's moving back.
moving back?
It's moving
Okay.
from, it was allocated for
Oh.
the gutters. It's moving back into CPA.
Okay, great. Okay, get a motion to move $1,200 from the CPA gutters back into CPA funds.
I'll make a
not-
motion.
No, not at 9 o'clock at night. Guys, bedtime.
Discussion?
It's quarter
Okay,
9.
all those in favor of moving $1,200 back into CPA funds from the gutter project?
Aye.
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 All right. Get a motion to recommend to the town moving $5,000 out of free cash for the purchase of Parks Lake testing equipment.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of moving $5,000 out of free cash for the testing equipment?
Aye.
Recommending to the town to move 5,000?
Aye.
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 Get a motion to recommend to the town moving $4,000 out of free cash for the AED containers.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of recommending to the town to move $4,000 of free cash to support the purchase of the AED containers?
Aye.
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 Can I get a motion to recommend to the town moving $20,000 out of free cash to support community celebrations?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of recommending to the town of moving $20,000 out of free cash to support community celebration?
Aye.
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 Awesome. You're done, right?
Yes. Oh, wait a minute, didn't we talk about, you gotta authorize the transfer for the,
Yeah, I was gonna get to that next. So we're done with the town warrant. Technically, in the agenda, I wanted to discuss the DLS report, but given the fact that it's 9:15, I'm gonna move that to a new meeting. We can discuss that at a later time. And we can get to the next item. So items not anticipated 48 hours in advance. So we need to approve the transfer of 16,000 out of FinCom reserve to repair the street sweeper and leaf vacuum motor. The street sweeper was $5,951 for an estimate, and the leaf vacuum range anywhere from $8,500 to $10,000. My understanding was that if the motor was found to be junk, we wouldn't have to pay anything. So hopefully that's not it.
So
But-
is there existing maintenance budget within that department for these types of repairs?
Great question.
really great question.
Yes is the answer. Unfortunately, you may recall from earlier this year that that money got accidentally spent on the payment for the trackless. So it's all kind of a jumble at this point. But going forward, that won't be an issue. They still have the same amount that they have annually for these types of repairs allocated. And then obviously the trackless will come from a different source.
So Kim, explain to me that, so money got spent out of operating for the trackless,
Yes.
and the money that was earmarked for the trackless, what happened to that?
It didn't exist. So at some point, either last ATM or this past STM, we weren't certain when the payments would actually begin for the trackless. They were always going to need a transfer from the funding source. The funding source was listed as CapEx. So in theory, this meeting right now should be us putting on our first transfer from CapEx or stabilization for the first payment, right? In theory. What happened was the payment came in earlier this fiscal year and they just processed it out of a line that had enough money in their budget.
The bill came in, because just like you can see, they talked about the, something to do with fire. You know, the equipment was ordered and it was not sure, especially with the pandemic going on, when, you know, they were gonna have all the supply chain issues figured out and have it available. And it was just done sooner than it was supposed to be, and the bill came in and they just
paid it.
So it is crystal clear that a purchase requisition and purchase order process that needs to officially flow through approvals within the town is very important to set up.
100,000%.
Earlier
A centralized
reference.
purchasing office within the finance department with the finance director as the chief procurement officer, 100%.
And one of the things that makes that easier now is the highway surveyor is no longer elected, but is appointed by the select board under the direction of the town administrator.
Yeah.
So as we move forward, and we're actually in the process of evaluation, I actually have an interview scheduled with the team next week to talk about rules and regulations and setting up a framework to avoid these kinds of hiccups from happening again.
I asked how old that equipment is and how long we've owned it.
You can ask.
That's, some of that detail was in the email. I think the motor was like 40 years old or something like
Like, it was
that.
older than that.
Yeah, it was like,
I thought it
40
said,
the motor was like 40 to 50 years old and it would cost like 40 to 50 grand for a new motor.
actually, I thought it was built in the I thought he said in the 50s,
Yeah,
it was the 1950s.
1950.
Oh, 1950, okay.
70 years old, that's like 70 years old. That's the
So
first thing I thought of.
that's why it was one of those, if they can't, they think they can fix it if they can source the parts. It was roughly that amount of money to fix it, assuming they could find the parts. There is a chance that they could go in and find that the motor is junk, in which we wouldn't have to spend any on the fixing. And we could end up needing to purchase a new leaf vacuum. Nick did ask if there is a, rental option in the.
Yeah, I saw that email.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, because 40 years I've lived in town, I've never seen that leaf.
Oh, no, I've definitely seen it. Oh, yeah, and working from home, there's been a couple of times I've had to shut windows, it's gone through the neighborhood, yeah. I've definitely seen it.
I guess it's never vacuumed any of the leaves on.
Yeah, it doesn't like your room.
Just gonna say that. You actually, I've never seen it.
Yeah, no,
I have never seen it.
They can pick up the leaves. They don't remember on
Have you
Big
seen
Street either.
No.
But
I've never
my
seen it.
father, he would have told them to keep going, because he's gonna race it,
So when did they, I'm seriously, when did, I've never personally never seen it either. I don't know it's great. Not the street, I've never seen it without that.
I don't remember, but I definitely remember, I remember sitting in front of my house and I was like, what is going on outside?
And what's the other piece of equipment?
There's the repairs to the street sweeper, which I think that broke as they were going down my street too, because they were dragging a whole bunch of dirt down the road and stuff.
So, again, are we trying to fix junk?
That's my question. I would hate to put in like $10,000 and then next year at this time, them saying, oh, the motor, something, or not even the motor, it's something to do with the hydraulics or something. This, when I read that, when you just said it was 50 years old, I said, no, it was, I thought that the 1950s vintage is in 70 years old. I mean, even 50 years old.
Well, I mean, looking at the street sweeper, just because it's very recent, like it doesn't appear that old. But I don't know for sure. I'm not speaking with any sort of authority or knowledge. But
Well, since we're having the discussion on it, I would much rather wait until we get the official, you're still gonna call that position highway surveyor?
We're actually, Kim had suggested, and I had agreed that one of the things we're looking at is combining different departments into a public works, if it makes sense. So the short answer is it depends. I can say that we're using the Collins Center to do an evaluation. The gentleman who's actually overseeing it, I believe, has 30 years as a public works director. So I've got somebody who's actually been there, done that.
So my recommendation is wait until that's all official and see what this guy's plan is.
Well, I will say that he is actually, right now, over there, kind of overseeing what's going on. So he knows that this was sent with his knowledge, so.
So my opinion on the street sweeper is, given that we're coming off of the winter, right now is street sweeping season. So I don't know how long it will take to get the new person on board, but.
Well, my memory about that, and Mike, I don't know if you were around, but it was, when I first was a cop in town, we had a motorcycle accident down on the curve, right where Neck Hill Road meets with Hartford Ave.
Yeah.
It kind of goes around the curve. And there was someone on a motorcycle with with a passenger on the back. And he hit the sand, slid out, and she lost her thumb on the guy wire. And that was because we really didn't really sweep the streets.
Yeah.
And after that, and when the town was found liable for it.
Yeah.
My recollection is we used to farm it out.
Yeah, well, that was it was 85, and the next step was that, and even this, we didn't have this new, I remember.
No, we bought this
What is used.
This lot is used.
Right.
I think this was 1950.
Yes, I'm looking at the email,
Yeah,
April 19th.
yeah.
Talking about it.
Yeah, it says the motor on the system is the 1950s white.
So,
Yeah.
Sort of the same point, if you parse them out and you had to, say, outsource the leaf aspect of it for 8 to 10,000, that's probably gonna cover a fair amount of leaf cleanup, I would assume. If you want to go to maintaining a street sweeper, seems more reasonable and more ready, and then 8 to 10,000 for repair on a 70-something-year-old
Yeah.
piece of equipment versus spending potentially 8 to 10 on.
Well, just so we're clear, it's just under 6,000 to fix the street sweeper. And then the leaf vacuum, this 1950s white Hercules motor, the cost to replace it is 40 to 50,000. But the estimate is to rebuild that motor is 8,500 to 10,000. And the discussion about that old motor is, if you rebuild it, they don't make them like they used to, and it has a much, if you can get the parts,
That's the concern I have though in this whole thing. Is so let's say they can put the whole motor together, it runs like a charm. And then next year, like I said, something in hydraulics goes there, oh, we can't get that.
Right.
That's my biggest concern. If I knew we could get parts on this, I'd say, yeah, go for it. I agree with everything you said, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm sure this engine is much better than what you're gonna get today.
Yeah, and those are
But the engine won't do much good if everything runs.
Exactly.
doesn't work. If it runs and it doesn't move.
Right.
yeah.
Look at that thing run.
Or it runs and it moves out,
Man, that sounds great.
or it runs and it moves, but it can't suck up the leaves.
Right. Plant flowers around it.
And
But we'll have more, we will have more information.
Yeah.
By the meeting. This is, again, just a recommendation for this.
I think the Board of Selectmen, when they officially hire, for lack of a better term, this department head that's gonna run the show, I would think the Board of Selectmen would say, okay, come up with a plan on how you're gonna run this. Here are our needs. How, do you have any ideas? We're not gonna, am I correct in?
I would take it a step further. When Kim recommended this to us, some of the money that was appropriated to do this, not only to do the search, but also had some money to provide some coaching and oversight to the new person to help them get on their feet. So the short answer is yes.
Yeah. So I'm all for just waiting to see what this guy says. Maybe he's got a plan that's very feasible. Hey, here's my plan, a 3-year plan to acquire this, this, and this, once he.
And I'll also go as far as to say that Hank, John Dudley, has been working with Alan Tatro, who is the one who's you know, he always found a way to make things work and, you know, do things on a shoestring. So, you know.
Can I just chime in here?
Sure, absolutely.
So we are many months away from hiring a person for this department. This person who's making these recommendations is currently the person appointed to be in charge of the administrative functions for the highway department. They have stated that they have a need that is dire, right? And that is necessary for operations now. So the highway department most likely will not have a new person in charge other than this person probably until the fall at the earliest. It takes, the study has to be completed first, and then a recruitment has to be done. And typically a recruitment takes 3 months. So it's April now. And so let's say they finish, they're supposed to be tasked with finishing the study by the end of this fiscal year so that we know what we're hiring for. And then we would start hiring in July. So July, August, September. Okay. And then there's a strong possibility based upon the costs related to paying a public works director that you would need an article in the November town meeting to be able to afford the salary for a public works director. So you have many things, and the restructuring and the reorganization of that department as a whole may need new positions and other considerations. So there are many things around highway and public works that are going to have to be considered in the next 6 months or so.
All the more reason to wait. I think we should devote our time and money on getting a leader in place and forming up a real Department of Public Works.
I think the sweeper though, I do believe that's not the older one of the two, and I do believe that's a dire need for that. I do. I mean, I'm just throwing my, you know, we talked about it too.
I agree. I think the street sweeper cannot wait until the fall. We can't go all summer without having swept streets for liability reasons, for safety reasons. So I totally agree with your sentiment ideally, but I think if, at a bare minimum, we should support the street sweeper. The leaf vac, we could probably wait. So do we want to, the other option is we could authorize 6,000 for the street sweeper, 5,951 for the street sweeper only and not for the leaf vac. And we can see the timing around when we have the new person in place.
I would just point out that my colleague, the Vice Chair Lonnie Tinio, has come into the meeting. He's got his hand raised about this issue too, so he wants to chime in to everybody.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm just coming in late, so I don't know if it was already discussed. I just happened to catch what you were saying there. I did speak with John Dudley about these, and the item with the waiting on the leaf vac was just the time it was going to actually take to get it repaired. And unless something has changed, that the timing would be better to be able to get them both repaired now so that the leaf vac was ready for the fall. Whereas if you wait too long, it might not be ready in time unless something's changed.
That's what it actually does say. I'm reading that. Yeah, it does say that, you know, starts at the beginning of May, it would be finished in mid-September, like you said, Lonnie, October, early October. Yeah.
I think it's the options available to us at this point, and we'd all like to buy a brand new one. We just don't.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Okay.
This is Nick. I'm not questioning the need for these. I assume that they know what they need and what equipment they need. It's more for me, the funding source. And if they spent their operating instead of it coming out of CapEx, then why wouldn't these come out of CapEx?
I don't believe it qualifies as a CapEx because of the size of it.
essentially this would be trying to make two wrongs make a right.
Tim, is that correct?
Yes, so it's a $25,000 limit, project limit to use CapEx. So the initial purchase, sure, definitely CapEx would be a great source if there was funding available for it. But for repairs like this, they really should come from their operating budget. And just like this payment should have come from CapEx or stabilization, right? That's how we ended up here. If you recall, Alan did actually ask for some additional funding at the STM to replace some of these accounts that he had already spent from. And we said no, because he wasn't in deficit at the time, right? His budgets were still positive, so we saw no reason to put additional funding there. So this was anticipated, just not the amount. Sorry, these dogs. Hey.
All right, any further discussion? So are we voting to approve or are we voting to
You're voting
recommend?
to, this would be a transfer of money from, from FinCom reserve to get it started now. So you've got to vote, and then our board, Lonnie and I, and the rest of our board is going to vote next Wednesday as well. So we both have to approve to use this.
All right, so any further discussion? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the transfer of $16,000 out of FinCom reserve to repair the street sweeper and leaf vacuum?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? Do we need Nick or Mike? Or not?
You could step down to make a second, but then you still have to have a majority for it to pass.
Okay. So I guess I will step down to make a second. All those in favor of moving 16,000 out of FinCom reserve to repair the street sweeper and leaf vacuum?
Any discussion first?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I just want to
Yeah,
say,
discussion.
I just think based on the timetable of this, and things never happen every time, I just sort of think we're stuck here. And I hate to say that, because if we wait, as you.
Can I tell you, we had the exact same discussion last week, because it came out before, we got this email before we could, it was less than 48 hours, so we
Right.
couldn't put it on because it was an emergency. But we did have the discussion of,
I mean,
I don't want to do it, but
Yeah, I don't want to do this either. I
I don't
don't
wanna
like
do it,
it,
but I
but
don't
you
know
know
what
what?
else
When
to
we
do.
have 6,000 cyclists all raising hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars for cancer research riding through the town,
Right.
and motorcyclists using our streets to have them not be swept and be dangerous, and the liability that causes for $6,000. I'm not willing to take that risk.
And I think the other thing, just keep going with that, is if this didn't come out that it was broken, I probably wouldn't have as much of a problem. But now if someone does, heaven forbid, get hurt on the streets right now, this is public knowledge, they're just gonna go back and they're gonna say, well, the streets, they didn't do anything. That's another concern I have right now. And I don't know, I just think we're sort of stuck. I mean, this would have been great if it happened in November.
I don't like the timing. I don't-
Timing's terrible.
And I would much prefer whoever's going to be taking over the department to
How
make.
what's the estimated time to fix this?
Sounds like the street sweeper can be fixed. It doesn't say, but it doesn't fix as soon as possible. So we don't fall, it says right here, we don't fall behind maintenance. So that, I'm assuming, is the quick fix. Do you know, Mike, if that can be fixed rather quickly, the street sweeper? 'Cause
Yes.
It sounds like it can.
Yes.
The second piece is the one that,
it's the time consuming one is that motor.
Yeah.
And again,
Right.
once it's rebuilt, it'll be great. I don't know about all the other parts to do with it, but the street sweeper is a more immediate repair. That's what we were told.
How about this?
I think,
Can I withdraw my motion? I don't know that.
Well, just let it fail. That's all.
yeah,
Okay, all right. So all those in favor of moving $16,000 out of FinCom reserve to repair the street sweeper and leaf vacuum? All those in favor?
Nay, no,
All those opposed?
I'm sorry, opposed.
Oh, yeah,
Opposed.
Aye.
You asked
Yep.
first,
Yep.
so yay,
I'm sorry.
then
So,
you ask for the name.
yeah, so all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
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 Okay, motion fails. Can I get a motion, can I get a motion to move $5,951 out of FinCom reserve to support the fixing of the street sweeper?
I'll make a motion for that, yes. Street sweeper only, correct.
Second.
All right. Second, okay, great. Any discussion? Again, I really believe that it is very important to fix the street sweeper as soon as possible. I understand the points being brought to the floor. The risk to public health, the risk to the people who use our roads is not worth delaying fixing the street sweeper. It is a real risk, as I am a cyclist not on the PAMS anymore, but I do use our roads in ways that the street sweeper is critical, and we will have 6,000 people riding through this town amongst all the other many motorcyclists that come through this town. Street sweeping is essential for those people to stay safe on our roads and the ones that we pay for. So it's absolutely critical in my mind. Any other discussion? All those in favor of moving $5,951 out of FinCom reserve to support fixing of the street sweeper?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
Opposed?
Motion passes. Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting closed at 9:10 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Nick, have fun taking care of the dog.
Yeah, oh yeah, having fun in Florida. See you guys.
Yeah.